Good morning, guys. Today we're going to begin chapter 6, which is using matrices for a whole bunch of operations. Now, remember in 10th grade, we actually saw multivariable linear equation systems. And remember that they took us a very long time to solve. And yeah, they were kind of uncomfortable and very tricky and long, and you guys had it easy because I actually downgraded difficulty of the test. But today we're going to learn a way to solve these systems, which is using an algorithm, which is a series of ordered steps in order to reach an end to solve the particular multivariable linear equation system. Now, what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to turn a multivariable linear equation system. We're going to turn this into what's called the row echelon form, which is a triangular expression of the system. Now, if you can tell, the first line has all variables, the second line only has two variables, and the third line only has a single variable. And the whole point is, once you turn this into this, we can use substitution and use this value. I know what my z is, then I plug this into the equation above it to find y, and then I plug y and z into the equation above it to find x. So the whole point is turning this into row echelon forms so then I can substitute and find the values of your variables. And you'll say, Profe, pero why do I have to do substitution? I can just use elimination like last. Well, yeah, but the thing is, let's learn how to use Gaussian elimination with multivariable linear equation systems, because then we're actually going to turn this into a matrix and solve it incredibly quickly. So please, I know what students say, Profe, but this is way easier. Why didn't they teach this as in 10th grade? That's how math works. You got to take it one step at a time. And sometimes you have to see how uncomfortable some processes are. So when you learn how to do a better process, you realize it's much better. Again, optimization. So let's begin with our Gaussian elimination. Now remember, the first step is you want to try, well, you don't want to try, you want your leading term of the first linear equation system, or the first equation, you want your leading term to be 1 every single time. You always want your leading terms to be 1. So let's turn this into a 1. How do I turn this into a 1? I divide everything by 5. When I divide this by 5, I'm going to have x minus y minus z equals 35. So I divided the first one by 5, and I ended up with this expression. So let me just substitute it up here. So this is gone, no longer need it. And I turn that into this. Remember, since this is a system, you can divide any particular equation by any number. You can also add them, you can multiply them, you can do pretty much anything. As long as you do it on both sides and you multiply by a non-zero number, you can just do whatever. So now that I have my first leading term as an x, I'm going to use the first one to get rid of these other x's. Okay, so let's get rid of this x first. All I have to do is add this to this. If I add them both, no other change needs to happen. You can just, and this is a 7. I apologize, forgot to divide. When you add this to this, the x will go away. So again, I'm going to write my answer down here and then erase the original equation and write it in the middle. I recommend you rewrite your equation system multiple times because it does get rather confusing sometimes. When I add x plus negative x, I get 0x. I'm going to put it down here, but I'm just going to leave it blank up here so you know what happens. When I add these two, I get y. When I add these two, I get minus 4z. When I add these two, let me just make sure I got the right numbers. Oh, and this is a negative 12. When I add these two, I get minus 5. So this is my answer. I'm gonna pretty much just write it in the middle now. I'm gonna write my answer in the middle. Because again, when I add the top equation to this equation, I'm just left with y minus 4z equals -5. So I got rid of my x, and also this leading term is now a 1. You always want to try to end up with a 1 here, okay? So this is a 1, this is a 1. Now the final step is using the first expression, which has an x, to get rid of this x. And after that, I'm going to use the second expression that has a y to get rid of this y. And then I'll only be left with x, y, and z. So let's take it one step at a time. So in order to get rid of this 3, I need a -3x. So I'm going to multiply the first one by -3 and then add it to this one. And let's see what happens. So when I multiply this by -3, again, I'm going to do my operation down here, and then I'm going to plug the answer in here. So I multiply this by -3, multiply that by -3, multiply this by -3, multiply this by -3. So all I did here was multiply the first equation by -3. Again, changing the signs where appropriate. What am I going to do now? I'm going to add these two equations. I'm just going to add them. This plus this is 0x, which is what I wanted. I wanted to get rid of my x so that I know I'm doing a perfect job. This plus this is y. This plus this is 10z. And this plus this is 9. So I'm going to erase the bottom one. And I'm going to place my answer there. You can see I used the first equation to get rid of my x. Now I'm going to use my second equation to get rid of the y. And again, you can either multiply this by negative and add it, or multiply this by negative and add it. It's going to be the same thing at the end. Okay. Vamos a ver. Let's actually multiply this by -1. I always like to work top to bottom. So multiply this by -1 and add it here. When I multiply this by -1, I get -y plus 4z equals 5. Again, this is the second one multiplied by -1. Now when I add these two, my y goes away, which is what I wanted, plus 14z, when I add these two, equals 14. So I'm going to erase these now and write my final equation. 14z equals 14. Now, once you have your row echelon form, you're pretty much done. All you got to do is, well, first of all, okay, what is z equal to? When you divide by 14, you know that your z is equal to 1. I divided that by 14. Again, you want your variables to have a leading term of 1 unless you end up with some crazy decimals or fractions. So now that I have these values, now all I got to do is work backwards and plug them in. If my z is 1, that means that my y minus 4 equals -5. Y minus 4 equals -5 plus 4 plus 4. I'm left at y equals -1. So I know that my z is 1, my y is -1, and my x, when you plug them in, x minus -1, because y is -1, minus 1, because that's z, is equal to 7. I combine all my like terms, this becomes positive and cancels this out, x equals 7. And if you're going to write it down, you know, it's x, y, z, so it's 7, -1, and 1. Now, I know this might seem tricky, but take it one step at a time. you'll see that right now we're using a whole bunch of letters, and it's not very comfortable. But when we turn these linear equation systems into augmented matrices, we're going to do that tomorrow, and then do the row echelon form to solve, you'll see that it is incredibly fast. It is pretty fast, okay? So that's it for today's class. Tomorrow, it's a way longer class, but again, since you guys are alone at home, we got to take it one step at a time and make sure you grasp these concepts properly. The homework is 1 through 6 of the exercises in the book. That's pretty much just doing Gaussian elimination to try to solve the fractions, okay? That's it. So have a great day. Oh, I will be uploading all your grades by around between 2 and 3 p.m. So if you have any questions about your grade, please let me know. We have until tomorrow, maybe a little bit more, to change the grades or upload. So if you have any questions, let me know. Have a great day. Homework and attendance before 10. Yesterday, 2 students did not do attendance or upload their grades. You're losing points. I've said it multiple times. Do not lose points. These are summative points, not conduct points. Make sure that before 10 p.m. you upload your attendance and your homework. If the students continue to, I want 100% attendance and 100% homework uploads, not 99, not 98. I want everybody to upload the homework and the grades. If that doesn't happen, we're gonna have to convene at the, during school time. So if we have class at 7, we'll meet from 7 to 8. If we have class at 12, we'll meet 12 to 1. I don't want to do this. Pero if not everybody works, this is what's going to happen. I want absolutely everybody to work. Unless you're sick, and if you have an emergency, you can contact me via cell phone. But don't wait until 10:05 to tell me you have a problem. You contact me before. Everybody has to work. Have a great day.